Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you are ready to move on and you have finished annotating this part of the document. Again, I am going to be sharing my screen. So we are moving on to the Wright brothers and their flights and new ideas in medicine. So the Wright brothers, two bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio, named Wilbur and Orville Wright, solved the age-old riddle of flight. On December 17, 1903, they flew a gasoline-powered flying machine at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The longest flight lasted only 59 seconds, but it started the aircraft industry. So really quickly, again, I wonder why two bicycle mechanics were able to do this. What did their original design look like? How exactly were they able to do this? And I'm curious, what was the actual first flight? We also have the new ideas in medicine. For centuries, scientists established the scientific method, which brought new insight into nature as well as practical results. Remember that we talked about the scientific revolution and how people started actually studying things that were seen in nature, along with the idea of using the scientific method. Most of you are aware already of what the scientific method looks like, but just in case you aren't, I want to make sure you are reminded that we have a hypothesis or we have a question, and now we need to figure out if what we are questioning and what we think the solution to those questions are correct. So you have a hypothesis, you start doing experiments, you analyze the data that you actually got from these experiments, and then with the data, you weed out and report what your findings were to see if what you thought was correct or incorrect. And scientific method is going to be used in the sense of putting this towards society and things that are going on in society as well. The germ theory of disease, an important breakthrough in history of medicine was the germ theory of disease. It was developed by a French chemist, Louis Pasteur, in the mid-1800s. And again, remember that if you haven't heard a word before, I am going to make sure that I say it for you so you actually hear the pronunciation of the word. And in this case, his name is French, so it's not Louis or Louis, it's actually Louis, and the S is silent, Pasteur. And while examining the fermentation, I would want to know what the word fermentation is. I would want to circle that and define it. The fermentation process of alcohol, Pasteur discovered it was caused by microscopic organisms he called bacteria, and he then learned that to heat killed bacteria, and this led to him developing the process of pasteurization to kill germs in liquids such as milk. And I would be like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder what he actually was doing while he was examining fermentation. And okay, that makes sense. So now I'm thinking that pasteurization in milk means that they heat the milk up so that they are able to kill any microscopic bacteria that could be found in milk, so it's safer for us. And then if the bacteria is not heating up the milk, then it's going to last longer and it's safe for us to drink. He later realized bacteria causes diseases. Joseph Lister, a British surgeon, read about Pasteur's work. He thought germs might explain why half of surgical patients died of infections. In 1865, he ordered surgical wards to be kept spotlessly clean, and he insisted wounds be washed in antiseptics or germ-killing liquids. As a result, 85% of Lister's patients survived and other hospitals adopted Lister's methods. And I actually talked about this already also with our PowerPoint presentation, where I talked about the majority of people who used utensils in surgeries. They didn't clean the surgery table, they didn't clean the instruments, and therefore if they were going to amputate someone's leg, they would amputate the leg with a dirty, bloody, covered utensil or material on the next person, and then once that patient was taken care of, they would move the next patient onto the unclean table for the next surgery to begin. Obviously, infection is going to set in, and then most people are going to die because of these infections rather than from the actual disease that they actually got. And his liquid that he comes up with to start cleaning the surgery wards and these rooms becomes a liquid known as Listerine, which is still around today. This is what you can wash your mouth with. It can clean bacteria off the back of your tonsils. You can get fresher breath from it, but this was the actual liquid that he came up with being able to sanitize the surgery room, utensils that are used in surgeries themselves, and the hospital wards. And they started finding that now patients were surviving rather than those who were being lost before. So again, take a moment to annotate your text. And when you are completed with this section, please make sure that you are going to change your status to, let's say this time we're going to do it to a thumbs down. So again, as soon as you are finished, we can turn back on and start again. So moving on to how we're going to implement this into the scientific method being switched to society. Public officials began to understand that cleanliness helped prevent the spread of disease. Cities built plumbing and sewer systems and took other steps to improve public health. Medical researchers developed vaccines or cures for such a deadly diseases as typhus, typhoid fever, diphtheria, and yellow fever. And I think I would definitely want to know what typhus is, what typhoid fever is. Diphtheria, heck, I don't even know hardly how to pronounce it, let alone to know exactly what it is. And yellow fever, is there another kind of fever? Is there black fever? Is there red fever? What's yellow fever? These advances help people live longer and healthier. So again, take a moment and annotate your text. And when you are done, change your status this time to a confused face. And then that way my aide knows to move forward onto the next section. So moving forward now into the new section, new ideas in science. No scientific idea of modern times aroused more controversy than the work of English naturalist Charles Darwin. He challenged the idea of special creation. He stated all forms of life had existed for millions of years. Due to natural selection and a shortage supply of food, only the strongest will survive. Those who survive will pass on their gene pool to offspring with the adaptations which help them being the fittest under the environment they were in. Gradually, over generations, the species may change or evolve, only passing on genes which can adapt as its surroundings adapted. His theory became known as the theory of evolution. Mendel and genetics. A monk living in Austria named Gregor Mendel discovered that living things pass on variations from one generation to the next and found there was a pattern to the way that certain traits are inherited. His work began the science of genetics. John Dalton, a British chemist, theorized in 1803 that all matter is made of tiny particles called atoms. Dalton showed that elements contain only one kind of atom, which has a specific weight. Compounds contain more than one kind of atom, and in 1869, Dmitry Mendeleev, a Russian chemist, organized a chart called "All the Elements Are Arranged in an Order of Weight from the Lightest to the Heaviest." He left gaps where he felt new elements which had not yet been discovered could be added. This became known as the periodic table. A husband and wife in Paris, Pierre and Marie Curie, discovered two of the missing elements, which they named radium and polonium. In 1898, Marie Curie gave this energy the name of radioactivity, and she shared the Nobel Prize for Physics for their work on radioactivity. In 1911, won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. So again, there has been all kinds of ideas of Darwin's theory of evolution. People have said that, oh, we have evolved over periods of time from apes. That is not what Darwin's theory was. Darwin's theory says that we are from the same family kingdom as that, but over periods of time, we as human beings and all creatures in nature have evolved by passing on genetic traits that are able to survive in the environment they are living in at the moment. For example, there used to be all kinds of moths all over the world that were white. The problem is when we had all of the Industrial Revolution going on, specifically starting in England with the textile industries, we found that these white moths were coming up to where the steam is coming out and where the fires are burning because they're attracted to the light. Then they would land on gray soot-covered buildings, and these white moths were standing out against their gray background. And so then birds, which were flying in the area, saw these white moths on these gray backgrounds and found them as easy prey. They were able to eat them. Well, if you are able to eat all of the white moths, then obviously they are not going to be able to pass on their genetic makeup to the next generation and create more white moths. Whereas there were gray moths that were also in society, and those gray moths that were now landing on these buildings because of the fires and the light that was attracting them onto these gray soot-covered buildings, well, the gray moth was camouflaged by the environment they were now in, and they weren't being seen as easily by birds and other prey in the area, so they were able to survive and not be eaten. Therefore, because they did not perish, they are now being able to pass on their genetic makeup to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation, showing that we evolve according to our environment, and the most fit to be able to survive in that environment are going to survive and then pass on their genetic makeup to the next generation, including even in human beings. We have parts in our bodies that we don't even use anymore, and over periods of time they've gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, and we have no use for them. When we were hunters and gatherers and we needed to grind down food that we were going to be eating, when we needed to be able to break up grains and berries that were very, very difficult to grind them into our digestive system, we use parts of our body that are no longer needed today. And because of it, they're obsolete, but we still have the part in our body because we were born with them. Okay, take a moment to annotate your text, and I'm going to stop this video to be able to start your next video.